2013 marks the 40th anniversary of diplomatic relation between Vietnam and Canada. The trade and cooperation relationship between Vietnam and Canada has extended extremely over the past few years. Despite the global economic downturn, the two-way trade between Vietnam and Canada nearly reached $1.7 billion in 2011, and according to the Ambassador Justice, about $2 billion in 2012. Agricultural exports in particular have increased dramatically from $69 million in 2010 to $126 million in 2011. This came in part of Canada gaining access to the Vietnamese market for live animals, cattle, goats and sheep, and from extensive food protection activities in this country. Several Canadian companies have also chosen to invest in Vietnam, including major corporations like Manulife and Sun Life, Insurance Service, Talisman Energy, Oil and Gas, and several property development projects.
Thank you for joining our show today.
Thank you so much.
As Vietnam and Canada celebrate their 40 years of diplomatic relation this year, what are the highlights for celebration? Can you share with us?
Our focus, one of our priorities for Canada's foreign policy is Asia, and Vietnam is, of course, an important part of Asia as one of the larger developing countries. So it's a focus for us on trade. It's also one of Canada's 20 countries of focus for our development assistance program. So that we're working with the government to help support its development as Vietnam transitions into a middle-income country.
As Canada places a strong focus on food safety and education cooperation with Vietnam, can you share with us the underlying reasons for this cooperation in these two fields?
Yes. Well, for us, for Canada and Vietnam, education is a priority. I think all of us understand the benefit of education. So we look at education from a couple of different perspectives. For development assistance, we recently signed an agreement with the government in August for a 5-year program to help support. It's a skills and development program to help support the community college system in Vietnam to help provide technical and vocational training to all students in Vietnam that are interested, and to help make the links between the community colleges and the private industry to ensure that the people with the right skills are graduating from university and able to get jobs. So that's a significant area for us in education. We're also work to promote education cooperation between Canada and Vietnam, between our educational institutions. And finally, we continue to work on promoting Canada as an education destination of choice. In the area of food safety, yes, that we do provide development assistance in that area to work with the Vietnamese government and officials on promoting food safety and food quality, because this again is an important area for Vietnam. I think that people are recognizing the importance of this now more and more, and this is an area where Canada has some expertise that can be shared with Vietnam.
Talking about trade between the two countries, we can see that, as the figure last year showed, there's a skewed degree toward Vietnam, as Vietnam is a country getting all the surpluses. Can you share with us about the underlying reasons for this observation, and does it come as a disadvantage for Canada?
Well, I think it is very normal for one country to have a trade surplus and one country to have a trade deficit, and sometimes that can go back and forth. I agree, historically, Vietnam has always had a trade surplus with Canada, and part of that has to do with factors such as the type of goods that are sold, some of the manufactured goods or agricultural products. But also, I think part of that has to do with also perhaps the strength of the dollar compared to the Vietnamese dong. But we're really pleased. The thing that we look at really is to see what the general trend is, to see if trade is increasing over the years, and if both Canadian and Vietnamese exports are increasing. And we're really pleased to say that they have been increasing. So what's really important for us is to look at the overall growth. And indeed, the bilateral trade has been growing on both sides, both for Canada and Vietnam. And in some particular sectors, there's been much more growth than others. For example, in food and agri-products, the amount of Canadian exports to Vietnam has gone up 50 to 60 times over the last 10 years. So there's a significant amount of growth. I think it takes some time for the Vietnamese businesses and consumers to learn more about Canadian products, to learn about the quality of the products, the safety of the products and the food, and to look merely beyond the price. So, you know, our job, our challenge is to provide this information to Vietnam, to the government, to the businesses, and to the consumers to really promote the benefits of increased trade with Canada, of more purchases of Canadian products and services. The other thing I would just add is that those trade figures don't necessarily reflect the full extent of Canadian cooperation, economic cooperation in Vietnam, because there are a number of Canadian businesses that are active here in Vietnam. So, you know, there's also more benefit to Canada and Vietnam through the services provided here in Vietnam.
In summary, can you show us some main points about the advantages and difficulties for Canada to cooperate with Vietnam?
Okay. In terms of the advantages, you know, I think that Canadian businesses and individuals have some real strengths that they can bring to this relationship with Vietnam. And the first is that Canada is a trading nation. You know, a significant part of our prosperity comes from international trade, that we trade with our neighbor, the United States. We also trade with other parts of the world. So that's a significant part of our economic strength. So, you know, many Canadian businesses are very entrepreneurial in spirit, so they're able to you know, undertake the challenge of working in a different country. One of the other strengths is that, you know, Canada is also a country of immigrants. You know, many people have come from other countries, or their families have come from other countries, and they're able to build bridges between Canada and other countries. Like in Vietnam, we have many people, many Canadians of Vietnamese descent living in Canada who still have connections to Vietnam, whose families are here or friends are here. So they come visit, some of them come to study, and some come to work. So we have great bridge builders in Canada to make the connections with the other country. In terms of the difficulties, I think that, you know, there are difficulties, you know, perhaps there are challenges that businesses face in adapting to the culture or the language. You know, many of them may not speak Vietnamese. So what's really important is that people find good partners in Vietnam that they can work with, that can provide them with some guidance about the business culture, about the government structure, about the culture more generally, as well as to help them adapt to the language, to learn the language, or to work, find a way of working in Vietnam. The Canadian businesses and business people are adaptable and able to meet those challenges.
One more personal question for you, but what do you aim to achieve in your ambassador positions?
Well, I've been extremely lucky to have been appointed as the ambassador here in Vietnam. I was appointed 2.5 years ago, so in 2010. And I really, it has been a great it's been a great job, and I've had really wonderful experiences, and it's great to work in the embassy with the team here. And I think that we're doing really very good work in terms of promoting our relationship, promoting cooperation in trade and development assistance. Over the remainder of my time here in Vietnam, I'm hoping to see a bit more of Vietnam. So far I've been to about half of the provinces, and I hope to see a few more before I leave. And really I think that the highlight of the year for me will be the successful celebration of the 40th anniversary, because I think it's a real milestone for both of our countries, and it's a very important sign of our level of cooperation in the relationship.
Miss Justice, thank you very much for spending time with Sharing Vietnam today. We really appreciate that, and we wish you a very happy Tet holiday.
Okay, thank you so much.